Hey everybody, welcome to Darcy's Business. And I am here with Jonathan Richardson, who is the founder and director of grassroots nonprofit organization, Unity in the Community Incorporated. And so today you are going to learn all about how to start a nonprofit with no experience at all. And so Jonathan is going to walk us through that whole entire process so that you have what you need to get started with confidence. Jonathan, to get a better idea, what inspired you to start your nonprofit?
Thank you for that question, Darcy. So as far as my inspiration for starting a nonprofit organization, I would say first and foremost, it was the passing of my nephew. My nephew and I were 3 years apart. He unfortunately passed away from a drug overdose 3 years ago. So losing him really inspired me to want to get more engaged with the community and make an impact in my local community. I've also lost friends and family and classmates to gun violence. And so just seeing a lot of negativity in the community had me looking at myself in the mirror, asking myself, how can I make a difference in my community? Because it's easy for people to point out problems in their local community. In the country in general, but
True.
I feel like the true leadership and difference makers are the people that can point out problems, and at the same time that they're pointing out the problems, they can start thinking of solutions to the problems that they see. So I just wanted to offer solutions to different problems in our society.
Wow, that was said very beautifully, and I'm truly sorry for the loss that you experienced. What community exactly? You mentioned focusing and helping your community, but what community is that you currently are supporting and helping?
So right now, I'm based out of Lexington, Kentucky. I grew up here, and we are primarily doing most of our work in the Lexington area. A lot of our work has been with the unhoused population. We have about 3,000 people that are unhoused in Lexington, Kentucky. We also just received a grant to provide free swim lessons for underprivileged youth this summer.
Hold on, what? You said you received a grant? What?
Yeah.
Congratulations. Congrats. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, so we received that grant to provide the free swim lessons this summer. So even though initially when we first started, our main population that we were assisting was the unhoused population, I've always had dreams and aspirations to branch out and to do different things, because with a nonprofit organization, you don't have to just limit yourself to one focus or one population. As long as you're helping the community, helping society, doing positive things, and everything you do is legal, you can do a lot. And so that's the beauty. The entire name of our organization is Unity in the Community. And when I think of community, I don't just think of one group of people or one demographic. A community is made of lots of different people and different demographics, and this country is a melting pot. So Unity, we want it to be inclusive and include everyone, and that's what I'm all about.
And so going into that a bit more, can you explain, like, outside of the swimming, outside of providing food for homeless, what else do you feel like you can do with your nonprofit? What different areas do you see yourself expanding to?
So I've always been into the sciences and the environment. I love the animal and just planet Earth, different planets, and just, the fact is we only get one planet Earth. We need to take care of our environment. So I've looked into doing things such as local park cleanups, cleaning up the local river, creeks, so getting people involved in things like that. And I'm also looking into community vegetable gardens. And I think that's a big one right now, especially with inflation. I don't know about where most of our audience is located, but if you just go to the grocery store, you can just see the impact of inflation in this country. And so I think that not only is community gardens something to build community and bring more unity, it also is a way to get out there and network with people. And also a lot of the times, especially if they're doing organically grown products, you can get better and more healthier alternatives by doing a community garden versus going to your local grocery store.
Wow. Honestly, you have such a clear vision for where you want to take Unity in the Community Incorporated. And just to kind of help the audience get clarity or understand, how did you get this clarity? Did it just happen right away, or did it happen over a series of a few years, few weeks?
It's been a lifelong journey. I've always been considered myself a humanitarian and been able to think about the world just not from my perspective, but everyone's perspective. And like they say, you can't judge a man until you walk in his shoes. So I'm all about compassion and empathy and understanding why things are the way they are. But I would say that just with a nonprofit organization, you have more resources at your disposal, because when I first started my outreach, I was doing it just with 2 friends, and I was the only one out of the group that wasn't a millionaire. So it was easy for them to go to Little Caesars and spend like $200 a week. But myself, with inflation, hot and ready pizzas, they're not $5 anymore. So just buying 10 boxes of pizza for me was sort of a struggle. So I started networking with other nonprofit founders, and I talked to a missionary here where I'm located, and he told me about 501c3s, and he told me that whenever he wanted to do something like what we were doing, he would go to somewhere like Papa John's, let them know that he was a 501c3 nonprofit, and they would actually donate the food to his organization so he could do more. And so it's all about being able to do more with a nonprofit organization, because together in unity, there's a lot that we can accomplish, and it's a lot more that we can accomplish versus just myself alone or with 2 different people. So as a nonprofit, you have the backing of your local government, the federal government, and just people in general from your local community.
Oh, okay. We gotta talk about how you got millionaire friends. Like, what's the strategy for my audience? Like, what do they need to do to get some millionaire friends?
Well, to meet millionaires, I think you just have to just be out there in the community and networking and just treat everyone the same, regardless of their demographics, how little or how much they have. At the end of the day, we're all human. We're all in this together. But as far as meeting millionaires, I would just say, just get out there and network.
Now, can you go into the exact steps you took in order to get set up and registered as a nonprofit organization?
Of course. So starting a nonprofit organization, it's sort of like starting an LLC. Nonprofit organizations are corporations. So the first thing that I had to do was to go on the Secretary of State website for the state that I live in, and I had to look and make sure that there wasn't any businesses using the same name that I was using. So that's the first thing that I would recommend to everyone that wants to start a nonprofit. Think about a few names that you want to use, and then go on your Secretary of State, wherever you incorporate your business in, and just make sure that no one's using that name. So I did that, and then I think it was about maybe $11 filing fee.
Oh, wow, that's pretty cheap.
Yeah, and for an actual for-profit business, it's about $40, but it's all less than $100 for that part. And so I know on your channel you talk about AI and ChatGPT, and funny enough, I actually used ChatGPT to help me with my articles of incorporation. I looked at the verbiage that they use for the Section 501c3, and I made sure to put in my articles of incorporation that unity in the community was established for tax-exempt purposes, and that we're a charitable organization that's helping the community. So if you want to start a nonprofit organization, make sure in your articles of incorporation you put in there that you're a charitable organization to benefit society, and whatever that you do for your community, just make sure that you spell it out in your articles of incorporation. So I did that. And then once I got registered on the state of Kentucky, I can't remember if I got my tax ID after that or before. Actually, it was after that. And yeah, I went on the IRS website and just registered for a tax ID number, and you get your tax ID number the same day. That service is actually free. And then the final step was, for me, you don't have to do this if you choose not to, but for me, we went ahead and got the 501c3 tax exemption, and you have to do that by actually doing I believe it's the 1023 form. I may be wrong about the actual number of the form, but if you just do a quick Google search and you type in IRS tax exemption document and application, it'll link you to the IRS website. You have to fill that out, and that's actually the most expensive part of the process. That application alone is around $300.
Oh, wow.
But
okay.
Once you have that, you're tax exempt, and if people make donations to your organization, they can get a tax write-off. And also, a lot of grants out there require your organization to be a 501c3. So if you're looking to apply for grants, I highly recommend that everyone go ahead and apply to become a 501c3 once you have your nonprofit incorporated.
So that was very helpful in knowing that there are free templates out there for legal services. Can you kind of walk me through step by step on how you got that form, how long it took you? Can you give me more insight into that, please?
So the 501c3 application, it's intimidating to a lot of people, but if your organization initially plans to bring in $50,000 a year or less, you can go with the easy form, which is pretty much a shorter version of the long version. The long version is intended for more established organizations that plan on doing business in the millions a year. Like basically anything over $50,000 a year. But if you're doing less than $50,000 a year in grants and business, then you can go with the easy form. And so on that form, you just need your tax ID. You need to have yourself and at least 2 other board of directors, pay the fee, of course, and then it's basically just a waiting process after that. I think I had to wait about 3 weeks to get the decision from the IRS. But once you're approved the IRS will send you your actual letter. It's called a letter of determination. And it'll say that basically, congratulations, your organization is now a tax exempt organization and that you're a 501c3 status. And then it'll have your tax ID number. And just make sure that once you get that document, you make copies of it, because there will be people that when you apply for grants want to see that letter, because without that letter and without your tax ID number, they can't get their tax write-off for making a donation to your organization. And then eventually the IRS will actually list your organization in the IRS database, and that takes about 90 days. So it's really critical to keep a copy of your paper for at least 90 days, because prior to those 90 days, you'll just have your paper from the IRS, and most donors will ask for that piece of paper to make sure that you're actually a credible nonprofit organization.
That's really good to know. Going back to that application, just so that the audience better understands the easy versus the longer form, was the easy form still difficult? Like, how many pages is this? Are there like very difficult questions you have to answer? What made it so difficult?
So the form itself is not really complicated. I think a high school freshman could probably fill it out. The only thing is the IRS, they have different abbreviations for different types of organizations, but on the IRS, there's a form that walks you through it. And you can basically say if you're a community foundation or if you're into the arts, but whatever your primary objective is of your nonprofit organization, you have to look for the abbreviation code on the IRS website, and then you put that on your application. So for us with Unity in the community, we're like a social foundation that helps the community, and there's a general code for that. But just picking out the code, and then to be honest, the most complicated part about the application is the application fee itself.
Okay. Well, thanks for being honest. I appreciate that. And yeah, $300 isn't a small amount, but it sounds like it's definitely worth it to get that tax status. Thanks for walking us through how to set up a nonprofit. Now let's get into, did you create a business plan? Do you even actually need one to grow your nonprofit?
So you don't really necessarily need a business plan written out, but what I did is I have my articles of incorporation, and I also have bylaws for my organization. And in my bylaws, it just talks about some of the initiatives that we're focused on, how we vote on different things and make changes to the organization. And we also have a mission statement. So I would say that my mission statement is sort of the business plan. And the beauty of the nonprofit world is just that I think that the name is part of your business plan. So if the nonprofit was named something like cleaning the ocean for the fish to swim or something like that, then it kind of limits you to working primarily with fish in the ocean. But with us, Unity and the community is made of many different elements. And of course, this is the United States of America, and we all know what unity means. And so I feel like we have a broad name, so it allows us to do a lot of different things. But I would just suggest to make a business plan, and I have a PowerPoint kind of outlining the things that we focus on through Canva. You don't necessarily need a business plan, but it does help, because even though we're a non-profit organization, we're still a business and we're still an organization. I think that all businesses do need a business plan, especially when you're first starting off with a nonprofit. You don't have the different types of expenses like a for-profit business has, and you don't have to factor in taxes. And right now we're just volunteer based, so we don't have paid employees. So I think nonprofits budgets, they look a little bit different too, but it does make sense to have a business plan and a mission statement, of course.
That sounds very helpful. One thing that you mentioned is that you got some volunteers. Can you share with the audience about how they would go about getting volunteers, people willing to support their cause? Because as we know, we are living in a capitalist society, and so money does matter. So how are you working to get people to show up and contribute to your campaign? And can you go into that a bit more?
So I would say when I first started off with Unity in the community, I was doing a lot of things by myself. And what really helped us to get more exposure and more volunteers, we had a news piece that was published where I was out on Christmas Day passing out food to the unhoused population. And then once we had that article go out, it was on the local news, and then people saw it on the app called Newsbreak. I don't know if the audience is familiar with that, but we had that on Newsbreak. And then so I had people from the community reaching out. They were just saying that, you know, I commend you for what you're doing for the community. How can we give back? How can we volunteer? How can we help out? So I gained volunteers from exposure in the media, as well as just word of mouth. And my uncle, one of his favorite phrases to say is conversation rules the nation. I find myself having conversations with people a lot. And one of my favorite things to talk about is unity in the community. And so I'll just be at somewhere like Walmart or a local grocery store, and I've been able to actually recruit volunteers just from talking to a stranger and telling them about what we do. And a lot of times they're like, I've been looking for a way to give back to my community and help out. And people also like the fact that we're a grassroots, newly established organization. So it's kind of like they're getting to be part of something new and give back. And we all see that we do have a growing unhoused population, not just in Lexington, where we have around 3,000, but in this country as a whole, we have a growing unhoused population. And some of that is due to inflation and rising housing costs, but also a lot of the unhoused that I've met do have severe mental illnesses or some type of disability, and sometimes even substance abuse disorders. Just being able to give back and work with people and have volunteers. And it's critical to have volunteers, especially with a nonprofit.
Wow. Yeah. Truly, you sharing your story sounds like you've been able to bring people in. And so I think that's important to note, is that you really have to say like why you started your nonprofit and be willing to share it to anybody, especially at the grocery store. So that definitely sounds great. And I'm glad that you have such a strong why behind your nonprofit. Could you talk about the media coverage? Because I feel like it can be hard to grow on social media or get media press to buy into what we're so passionate about. Can you talk about how you were able to get that media coverage?
So with media coverage, what I learned just from this whole process, around 7 months or so. So initially, I found myself actually being the person to reach out to the news reporters. I had been doing a lot of networking over the summer, and I met a news reporter at another nonprofit organization's event. It was a conference, and she does a lot of coverage on nonprofits. So I just reached out to her, told her that I was doing work in the community and seen if she'd be interested in doing a story about us. And then she actually reached out to me like maybe 2 or 3 days before Christmas. She was like, Jonathan, do you know anyone that's going to be doing anything for Christmas? I'd like to have some coverage. And then I thought about it. I'm like, well, actually, I'll be doing something on Christmas. I'll be passing out food to the unhoused. I told her about it. So she came and she followed me around the city of Lexington and got some coverage. And she did some interviews with some of the unhoused people and basically outlined how we got started. And we have a partnership with Papa John's. So thank you, Papa John's. We really appreciate your support. So it started off with actually reaching out to the media. And now once you get enough attention in the media, they start reaching out to you. So I just encourage everyone to take the initiative. It's all about taking the first step, because there are a lot of great resources out there, but you have to be a go-getter. And just like with your channel, you talk to people about how to be entrepreneurs and how to get grants and basically just have their business grow. And I think that with all businesses, you have to networking is critical to get on with the media, because you have to get to contacts. And since then, we've been invited to in-person live interviews and local networks here. But at the end of the day, I would just say that it's like we've heard before, sometimes it's not about what you know, but who you know. So anyone out there that's starting a business or a nonprofit, I highly encourage you to keep networking and meet more people and just keep trying, because starting a business, especially a nonprofit, it can be challenging. I felt like giving up a lot, but been persistent and I keep going. And then when I feel like giving up, I think about my nephew and my friends and the unhoused people and just the other people that I've been able to draw inspiration from.
To people who are looking to start a nonprofit, what's the one piece of advice that you have to give to them?
Before they start their nonprofit, think about something that they're really passionate about in life, and also see if that's something wherever they live or wherever they plan to start their nonprofit, if there's a void in that service or in that area. Like for myself, I'm passionate about unity and the community, of course. And I personally have an uncle with mental illness that has been unhoused for years, and I chose unity in my community, and we have an extremely high unhoused population where we're located. I chose to get involved and base my nonprofit on community and unity. So if you're passionate about arts, or you're passionate about the ocean or space, whatever you're passionate about, make sure that you kind of center your nonprofit about something that you're passionate about. So that's my piece of advice.
Nice. That was very much so well said. If people want to find you, want to ask you questions, questions or just want to give you a bunch of money because they are bought into your vision for how you can make your community better, where should they find you?
So they can find us on our Instagram is unity_in_Lexington. And they can also look us up on Google, just type in Unity in the community, Lexington, Kentucky. There's a lot of articles about us. And also they can email me personally. My personal email address is johnnyrich40511@gmail.com. And we're currently in the process of getting our website up and running. We do have the domain name, we just haven't built it yet, but we're not hard to find. Just Google us, Unity in the Community, Lexington, Kentucky.
All right, sounds good. And I'm so grateful to have Jonathan speaking with us all today. If you have any questions about starting a nonprofit, I'd be more than happy to hear from you in the comments below. And I'm so excited to create more videos just like this. And so if you want to be featured on Darcy's business and share why you started your business and how you got started, then let me know in the comments, as well as there'll be a link in the description where you can learn more. I can't wait to see you next time. Peace, stay building.